Hello, hello! Happy Thursday! Thank you for joining me. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make lovely and quirky hand embroidery kits. And I am here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And it's a time where we can relax and craft, and we work on a project together for about an hour. And we work on the project from beginning to end. And tonight is another special day. It is day 2, or it is block 2 of the Splendid Sampler Quilt Along 2. So this is the second version of the Splendid Sampler Quilt Along that started a couple years ago. This is a whole new one with 80 new designers and 100 new designs, and it just started last week, Thursday. They release a new free block every Thursday, at least for the first 20 blocks. So we are on the second block. It is Milk and Cookies, so cute, by Rebecca Bryan. So fancy already too. The designers are going all out for the Splendid Sampler too. So we're gonna pick fabric tonight for this and get started. I've looked over the instructions, and I've looked over where on the Splendid Sampler page some of your guys' concerns or some troubles that you guys have been having, and I'm going to address a few of those tonight as well. And we're also going to talk about applique a little bit within the next couple days. So I'll be working on this all day today for the hour tonight's session, and then we'll be working on it in tomorrow's session, Friday's session as well. I'm not sure we'll finish. This block seems like maybe more than a 2-day, like a 2-hour block for us, but I will get as far as we can in these 2 days, and we'll definitely pick it up sometime to finish it, and I'll let you guys know when that is, and we'll pop on live and do that. But anyway, who knows? Maybe we'll get really far. We'll see. So let's get started. I am going to use some of the tips from Terry Atkinson's blog. So she is giving tips for every block. I've put a link to her blog post here. I took a look at that beforehand as well, and I'm going to utilize a couple of those tips, and I'll explain why as we get going here. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll flip you around. Let's pick some fabric. I have not picked my fabric yet for this block. So all right, here we go. All right, let me know if any of you guys have started this block as well. I'm curious. I know I saw some of you guys post them in the Penguin and Fish Crafters group. That's awesome. All right, here's my bin. Here's my scraps from the last block. I'm saving all of my scraps. So here are my fabrics. Here, let's put these guys up here. I'm gonna get you guys a little higher. Hopefully I can still read. Actually, let's put these guys here. We can still see them, and then we can go sideways here a little bit. Maybe that'll be a little bit better. Then we can see everything. So here is the block here. So all right, we need 2 fabrics for the background, 2 different fabrics for this circle, and then we need like this fun front fabric. Just done one, but you're thinking maybe redo because of a few sizing issues with the applique. Yeah, Catherine, I am going to go over some applique things with this, but let's before we pick fabrics, let's just analyze this a little bit. So for the background, we have a couple half square triangles, and it looks like it's referring to a page that's going to be later in the book for how to do the half square triangle, these triangle squares. I will be able to, I'll be going over that with you guys tonight. So these are actually, they turn into almost flying geese. So this is what a half square triangle is. It's where you have a square and it's divided at the diagonal into 2 triangles. That's in quilt land, that's typically called a half square triangle. And when you put those 2 together, you have like a flying geese unit. So we're going to make a couple of those tonight. So we'll learn how to do that. And then we're also going to make this super cool circle. It appears in here that it is needle turn applique. So you can do the applique however you want. I am going to do the needle turn applique, but I am going to do a fun little cheater way to get it going. So I think you guys will really like this. I'm actually going to use the same technique for needle turn applique that I used in my Splendid Sampler 1 label. So if you were here a couple of weeks ago when I did that, we'll be using the same technique. It is like a super fast way to get that needle turn applique effect. And what needle turn applique is, to start out, is when you have your piece, like let's look at the middle piece. So you have your circle. It's actually a 1/4 inch bigger, larger than this for the seam allowance. And you go around and you tuck a little piece of the seam allowance under and you stitch it down. And then you tuck another little piece and stitch it down and tuck another little piece and stitch it down until you've gone all the way around. So you are hand stitching it to the piece when you do needle turn applique. I'm going to do a really fun way of doing this. And with needle turn applique, the fabric almost looks like it's floating on the top. It is a cool effect. I love it. So we're going to do the needle turn applique, but I'm going to show you a super fast way to get the sides folded over just perfectly. And it works especially good for circles, and we're dealing with circles. So we will get to that hopefully here. But first, we need to get our background done, and we need to get these little archy arches made as well. So, and before all that, we need to pick some fabric. So you guys know, if you've been with me here, I'm trying to go for like a light blonde quilt. So I have all these kind of blonde fabrics. I want the bulk of the backgrounds to be white, or I want a big portion of the piece to be white. And then I have a few special little poppy fabrics that I'm actually trying to limit. So I think I'm going to try and do this block without using any of these. I know they would look so fun, a lot of these fabrics, but I want the overall effect of this blonde light quilt. So I'm going to try and stick to those and maybe just use one of these fun fabrics like every, 5th block or something. See, that was confusing because the circle template does not have a seam allowance. Yes, so we're going to go over, we will definitely spend some time with these circle areas and the templates, but first we need to get to that point. So if you've been waiting, you'll probably have to wait another day till we get that far. But let's pick some fabrics. So let's kind of start out, let's pretend we're going to do a light color for this background. Maybe we do like lights and then a little darker for these ones and then maybe another light one for the middle. That'd be kind of fun. So this is a light fabric. Let's pick our next like lightest fabric out of here. I mean, we have this cream, but maybe that's too close. I want to do something a little different. This is awfully light. Ooh, but next to this it looks dark. Let's see. Ooh, we could do sweet little, what about this? How about sweet little animals? These look pretty close for light colors. And then maybe we do some fun, bolder ones for the middle. Like, okay, I'm just totally grabbing, but these are a little bolder. Maybe more of these orangies. So we could do this orangey one. Maybe we get even darker. Orange and this kind of brown, maybe? I don't know. Or maybe we do a couple browns for the middle. Well, these might be kind of pretty together. Kind of a brown and a brown swirl for this middle area. I know this is going to be super subtle, but I'm kind of going for subtle. So when I look at my fabrics that I'm picking, I kind of lay them out kind of how they're going to be. So we're going to have some triangles and some curved little dudes on top of it. So that's looking, I don't know. I kind of like this dark one. What about here? This one's kind of dark. Or we could go bright. Thanks for bearing with me while I choose fabrics. I think this is kind of some of the fun part of it. What about here? That's kind of cute. So we have these bright colors. We have these kind of light, dull colors, then bright colors on top of that. And then maybe another light one for the middle. Oh, this might be a really pretty middle one. Actually, this might be a pretty back one too. Now let's stick with this. All right, guys, we're gonna make quick decisions. I think I'm gonna go with this for my design. So if we make this look curvy, we'll have this for our background. These are our triangles. And then we'll have kind of this yellow circle going around, and then we'll have this kind of lighter colored bullseye. But this fabric is awfully pretty, so it's going to showcase this fabric a little bit. So we've kind of gone light, dark, light. Yeah, I like it. Let's do it. All right, quick decisions, get her done. The nice thing is when you've picked all your fabrics beforehand, it really kind of goes a lot quicker to make decisions. And you know, the thing is, we're going to be using these fabrics so much through this whole piece that it's all going to get used. It's all going to blend together. So what we do in particular for each one doesn't matter much. So this was popping out at me. This would be awfully cute too for the middle. I don't know. I think we're going to stick with this. I like how this gold kind of blends in with this, and this cream kind of reminds me back of the white. So I think we're going to go like this. And then these are we're going to have some oddball cutie little dudes on it as well. All right, done. Let's put the fabric away back in the bin. But I love just having a bin like this that I can just grab and have around. All right, we're gonna throw that on the floor. Okay, next up, I'm gonna put these to the side because this is our circle guys, and I don't need those yet. Let's do these. So we are gonna make half square triangles. So here is one of the tips that Terry Atkinson had in her blog post, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to use it. So in the instructions here, we are making, they ask you to do some 3 7/8 inch squares. We're going to put those squares together and make our half square triangles. And then it says here that we're going to end up with our 6.5 inch block. So we're going to change that a little bit, because I want to end up with a slightly larger than 6.5 inch block for this particular one. I'm going to make it bigger and then cut it down when I'm done. And the reason for that is because when you do applique, especially needle turn applique, it has a tendency to, when you're stitching it on your background, it has a tendency to kind of pull the background fabric in towards the stitching. So if you're not super duper uber perfect and careful, it'll pull the background in. And since we're kind of expecting that to happen because we are doing applique, I don't want this to be the exact 6.5 inches. I want that to be a little bit bigger so that when it pulls in, I'm still going to end up with the 6.5, and then I'll be able to trim it down afterwards. And the beauty of that with this particular block is that we can make these half square triangles as big as we want because of the design. We have this nice design here where it can be bigger. There's not, other little extra deals. So it's a design where it's going to be easy for it to be bigger and cut down. So instead of doing these 3 7/8 squares, I'm going to go a little bit bigger. I think I'm going to go like 4.25 inch, maybe even the 4.5, even though I know that's a lot bigger, but I think it might be kind of easy. Tracy, you'll probably be fine. Just when you're stitching it, just keep that in mind a little bit, that it might get a little shrunken. Not too bad. Here, guys, I'm going to be right back for a second. I'm going to turn the air on because I don't want this to conk out like it did last night. Hold on a sec. All right, so last night my phone totally conked out because it was too hot in here because I have the windows open. Let's see if it does better tonight. All right, so let's just cut these to like 4¼ inches or so. I'm actually not even gonna, well, we could press it, I suppose. We'll press a little piece here. We'll cut from this corner. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna cut from this corner because we might get this duck in here, which would be pretty cute. All right, I got my iron. Oh, this is your first needle turn experience, Tracy. So I'm going to do this needle turn. It's still going to be needle turn applique, but it's not going to be the most traditional way of doing it. We're going to have a little bit of fun with how we do this needle turn applique, and it's going to make the whole process way, way faster, and we'll still get the enjoyment of hand stitching it. I think it's going to be really fun. So we'll get to that eventually here. All right, so I'm going to cut these both at the same time. Let's see how that goes. So I'm going to first, let's put this guy on the bottom because he's bigger. I'm going to first give it a good corner so that they're nice and square. And then we'll rotate this whole thing around and cut our other corner. So how many do we need? Oh, we actually need 2 of each of these, don't we? So let's cut, if I want to do 4¼ let's cut 8½ inches and then we'll cut it in half again. How about that? So let's, what's our 8½ inches? About right there. Let's get a good edge trimmed. All right, I'm just gonna veer off like that. And you know what? My cutting gets like really crazy here. So I'm gonna go like 1, 2, 3, 4¼ inch here or so. Oh man, I moved. My cutting for the Splendid Sampler always gets a little hairy, just because it's so much kind of cutting using the same fabrics and cutting things randomly for different things. That my cutting gets super sloppy and weird with the whole thing. But all right, this is our 4¼ Okay. So that should get us our 2 pieces here. So I'm going to do 4¼ again. I always got to count. Yeah, Gretchen, you can download the pattern from the splendidsampler.com. I am cutting these a little bit bigger for the background, just so that when we do the needle turn applique, it has room. The background tends to want to shrink a little bit with needle turn applique, and this will give us a little bit of leeway. Okay, so we got our squares here. We needed 2 of each square. So here we go. We got our 2 of these little birdie, cutesy little dudes, and we got our 2 white ones. So next up, we are going to make these into half square triangles, and this is the technique we're going to do for that. I'm going to get I have my little pencil out here. It's just a normal, it's nothing special. It's just a normal, everyday, click it pencil. I am going to, we're going to group the 2 different fabrics together. So we got a white one and our other silly one. I'm going to put them right sides together. There we go. And I'm going to take the ruler and draw a line down the diagonal. So I think I can get this with this 6.5. Yep. All right, so I'm going to draw right down the diagonal there. There we go. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Let's see what, yeah, I'm trying to decide what angle, like if I sew here, I'm going to cut off the head of this little duck. So I think we'll go here for the diagonal. Hey, from Texas, Judy. All right, so let's trim right here, or not trim. We're going to draw our line down the diagonal again. All right, now here's what we're going to do. We are going to sew on both sides of that diagonal line 1/4 inch. So we should have two. We're going to sew down, onto the right side by 1/4 inch of this line. We'll do the same thing over here. Then we'll rotate them around, and then we'll like this, and then we'll sew on the other side. Actually, I think we'll be sewing on this side first. So we should have 2 stitched lines on either side of this diagonal when we're done here. So all right, let's scooch to the sewing machine. The most fun. So I've switched over everything back from our normal Monday through Wednesday stuff. So I have my white, it's actually my muslin 50 weight Orifil thread in here again. All right, here's what I'm going to do. This is the marker for my 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's just a business card that I put there to act as a line. Some people put a piece of tape there or draw a line. I'm going to put my diagonal line right on that edge. And by doing that, it's going to sew 1/4 inch away from my diagonal line on this side. Oop, you know what? We're going to get a little leader in here to get things started. Oops, I haven't switched my stitch length from free motion quilting. There we go. Good thing we test all that before we go. All right, I like starting with a leader. One of these, just a little scrap fabric, because it's easier for the machine to make the jump to a new piece of fabric because it's on the same height as these 2 pieces of fabric together are the same height as these 2 pieces of fabric. And it just allows us to not have straggly strings all over the place. So all right, again, I'm putting this line along this edge, and we are going to stitch on our first side. All right, see, now when I can see the business card down there, now I'm going to get my line right on there. Then we can shimmy ahead. All right, and let's get the second dude in here right away and get that started. So we're chain piecing these, which means we're just sewing one right after the other. So they're in one nice long chain, all connected when we're done. All right, so now I'm going to trim the first one off of my machine. Here we go. We'll trim that guy off too. And we're just going to rotate it so that we're now sewing on that other side. I think this is a really fun way to make half square triangles versus, you could cut the triangles and then sew them together, but this way is a little magical, and you'll see why in a second here. All right, now let's get our other guy and rotate him and stitch on the other side as well. And you guys, feel free to ask any questions along the way here too. Sometimes I miss them just because I'm sewing too, and sometimes I just don't glance up quick enough. But let me know if I miss it. Just type it in again. All right, so there we go. We have our 2 pieces, and we have sewn on both sides of that diagonal. So all right, let's go back up to here. Back to our cutting board. And now here's where the fun comes in with making half square triangles. So remember, we have that diagonal. We've sewn on both sides. Now we're going to cut along that diagonal. So we're going to just cut right along our pencil line. That's kind of why it doesn't really matter that we used pencil. You're not going to see it. We're just going to trim it up. There we go. And because we've sewn on either side, now we've made two, oh my God, look at that little dude. We've made two half square triangles. So we got a little chicken and a little duck on those two. So let's do the same thing here. Trimming along that diagonal. And here we go. We got two more half square triangles. Look, it's a little kitty, I think. All right, sweet. How cute. All right, so now we need to press them. It looks like they want us to press, here's the pressing instructions. So pressing towards, the darker side. So in my case, the darker side is probably this creamy side. So let's shimmy over here to the iron. Oh, Carla, I did not design this animal fabric. I'm actually not using any of my own fabrics for the Splendid Sampler too. I'm just kind of using up a bunch of random fat quarters, and some of them aren't even fat quarters. Some of the random things I've just collected, I suppose. But aren't these cute? I really like these ones. I forget who did them. We'll have to look at the salvage a little bit. All right, so I've pressed towards my little animal fabric, which in this case is the darker fabric by, barely. So when I press, I always like to have the fabric that the seam allowance that I'm pressing towards, I like having that fabric on the top. So like here, I wanted to press towards that animal fabric, so I'm going to put the animal fabric on the top. And here's why. So I'll give it a little press first just to set the seam, and then we'll open it up and kind of press the seam like this too. And because we had that piece on top, the animal piece on top, when we fold it over, it's making that seam allowance go towards that animal piece. So there we go. We got two. Let's hit these other two quick. You definitely want to press during every stage of this. It's really important, especially with the Splendid Sampler when we're dealing with these small 6.5-inch squares. Oh God, the duck is so cute. I think he's got a mouse on his back. For weird. Oops, let's get the animal on top. So this is a bigger base, and we applique the wheel. Yes, Gretchen. So I'm making my base, the background, a little bit bigger, and then we'll applique on, applique can sometimes shrink a background. So after we're done with the applique, then we'll take our 6.5-inch ruler and trim the whole, we'll trim it up when we're done. Okay, so here are the 4 pieces. Let's read the next part. Okay, so usually with half square triangles at this point, you'll trim it up to the right size that you need. I might actually skip that part because remember we want ours to be a little bit bigger. I could trim it up so I have nice edges and everything, but I think I'm not actually going to bother with that just so we can get sewing a little bit faster. So all right, I need to arrange these how it has in the diagram. It looks like we need 2 of our pieces on top, in this case the white piece, and 2 on the bottom, kind of like this. But I want to try and arrange it so maybe these guys are in a cute spot. Let's see what happens if we, oh, there he's right side up. Oh, he kind of was right side up. What happens if we, oops. I don't know. I liked him right side up over here. We could put 2 ducks on top and then I'm the worst. I can never see see where these go right away. Maybe like that, both ducks on top, and then these guys, maybe they should be switched up a little bit more. Man, I'm getting picky now. I don't know. Let's go like this. So, all right, we need to we'll sew the top 2 rows together, and then we'll sew the bottom 2 pieces. We'll sew the top 2 pieces, then the bottom 2 pieces. We will press those, and then we will sew the top and the bottom. I am not going to bother with trimming these. You can if you want. I'm just going to slap them together, and I'm actually going to try and I'm going to start at the top here so I can really kind of place these seams together. I want those triangles these diagonals to line up with each other. So let's, oh man, now I forgot where they go. I gotta get by the sewing machine and do that. All right, let's scooch down here and we will sew those 2 sets. So here's our first one. I'm gonna fold, I wanna sew along this seam, match up those diagonal seams, match up the edge, and there we go. Just kitty scratch it. Just scratch it a little on top like you would scratch a kitty, just to nudge that fabric over if it's not perfectly aligning. But all right, I think we'll be good here. I like having a stiletto around. This is actually a turkey lacer with some beads, but I like having it. It's like having a really pointy little finger that can help you get into corners. So I like putting it, it's almost like a pin. I'll put it right here, and that'll help me guide this into the machine. There we go. And I also kind of like using it as a pin. So I'm going to almost like pin my layers together there while I sew. All right, let's get our second layer of guys. Flip that around. We're going to sew down this edge. Oh, you spent the day kitty scratching, Glenn. Is funny. I just like that term. But here, see, so if the pieces aren't quite, the top piece looks like it needs to go a little to the right, I'll just scratch it a little bit, and that should move it along. There we go. I think this looks decent. Put the stiletto up in there again. All right, and there we go. See, with the leader, with this extra piece of fabric in there, we can snip it and we don't have any long edges. We just have these little itty bitty threads at the end, which makes it easier. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, now we have, I forget which is the top and bottom row. The whites, I know, were diagonals at the top and bottom. There we go. Yeah, it was like this. So it just occurred to me that it doesn't matter. So here we go. Here's where our seams match. That's why we wanted to have these diagonal seams kind of match up so that the points come together. But it just occurred to me that we're going to be putting giant circles around it. So if those are off, like this one down here, that's not as perfect, not as matched up. It is not going to matter at all for this particular block because we are covering it up with our circle applique. All right, so let's press this. We're pressing the top one in one direction and the bottom one, seam allowance, in the other direction so we can nest the seams together. So I'll show you that in a second here. All right, so this one goes this way. So again, just give it a little blast of heat to set the seam and then press it in that direction. A lot of people press them open. Actually, that was one of the tips. If you're reading the Terry Atkinson blog, the blog post where I learned to make it a little bit bigger, she recommends pressing the seams open. I'm gonna not do that. I really like pressing to one side. I think it's kind of maybe a personal preference for everyone. I don't know. I'm sticking with pressing to one side for now, so I'm keeping the instructions on that one. Oh, you know what? Oh wait, no, we're right still. Okay. So here are the two pieces. This one goes this way. So now you'll notice that our seam allowances are pressed in the opposite directions. This one's pressed this way. This one's pressed the other way. So when we put these together, we're going to nest the seams. And what that is since the seam allowance is basically folded over there, since the seam allowance is going to the one side, it kind of makes a bump right here going in the one direction. And on this one, it makes a bump going the other direction. So when we hit those bumps together, it almost locks in place. You can actually feel them lock together. And that's going to give us really nice points in the middle. So there's a few other things that we can do to get all of our points to match up perfectly. I'm not going to bother with that in this block because, remember, we are going to be covering them up with the circle. So I'm not going to bother making perfect points in the center here. But all right, let's scooch over here and sew this together. We will definitely work on making perfect triangle points later in the Splendid Sampler too, for sure. I'm guessing there'll be plenty of blocks where we can practice making things perfect. But if you don't have to, I'm not gonna all the time. Scooch this up a hair. All right, so I'm kind of holding it there at where we put those seams together. And we're gonna just kind of go down this edge. You can trim your triangle, your square, so it's perfect every single time. You can see like some of my seam allowance is a little off there. Again, I don't think it's going to matter that much in particular for this block, so I'm not bothering with it. But again, we'll spend a lot of time going for accuracy on some of these other blocks. So we're just doing it kind of a speedy way tonight. All right. Let's check this out. So for this, they want, in the instructions, it has to press it open. See, my points aren't perfectly, they're not perfect points in the middle. Like, it doesn't line up perfectly. But again, I don't think it's going to matter much because we're going to have that circle around. So we're going to press these seams open. Now I'm actually going to snip some of that bulk away. Those dog ears, we're just going to get rid of those. It does add a little bulk that we probably don't want later. All right, let's press these seams open. So again, I'm going to just hit it with some heat first. And when I'm pressing open, I like to press the one side first. Get it going okay to one side. Wow, look how much this stretched. I think my white might be a little stretchy. This is a lot of sewing on the bias, which is the 45-degree angle of how it's woven. So it's woven vertically and horizontally. If you do anything on the diagonal, it makes things a bit stretchier. So that's why my square is kind of kooky in some places, not perfectly square, a little stretched. It's because of that sewing on the bias a little bit. You like pressing to the side, it's easier to match seams. I agree, Gretchen. That's why I like pressing to the sides. I like nesting seams versus having the open seams and trying to match them. Okay, wow, I'm really pressing this one random seam oddly. But okay, and then so I've pressed the seams open. There's a seam allowance on either side. I'm going to flip that around and just give it a final little press. Okay, so that is our background. I just want to check on it. Let's just measure it, see what it looks like. I think I had this as the top. Yeah, so we're quite a bit bigger than our 6.5 inches. That's great because that's going to allow us that if the back shrinks a little bit when we do the applique, we have quite a bit of leeway. So what we're ultimately going to do is we'll do the applique pieces on top of this, and when the entire thing is done, then we will take our 6.5 inch ruler and trim off. We'll center our circles and then trim off the area. So this gave us a little bit of leeway. So if you're nervous, if you've done a block and you're wondering why it's smaller than the 6.5 inches, it is probably because it shrunk a little when you did the applique. So again, another great reason for making it a little bit bigger, making those first squares a little bit bigger. But that is our background, so that is done. Okay, let's move on to the circles. Let's see. These are going to be our circles, and this is going to be our center circle. I kind of want to show you guys, I think I want to jump to the center circle just to kind of show you the like magical applique thing that we'll be doing. I think I can actually get that done with the center circle, and then tomorrow we will work on this whole middle area, this whole fancy middle area. So right now I think I'll show you how I want to do this circle. So again, we are going to do needle turn applique, which is just beautiful. What that means is you tuck under the seam allowance and you stitch it down as you go. We're going to do it in a fun way where we actually pre-tuck everything, and then we'll still stitch it down, so it's still going to look like needle turn applique, but we had a little kind of fancy quickness to make our circle. So how I'm going to do that, all right, so I don't need these guys for now. We're going to just make that center circle. We have a template for our circle here. It does not have a seam allowance, so keep that in mind. And so to do this kind of fun way of needle turn, I am going to also need some of this fusible shear weight. This is a lightweight fusible interface that has iron-on dots on one side of it, and it's really lightweight, like a really lightweight fabric almost. So here's the style number, PLF36. I do have a link to this in my post here if you want to look at that. I don't always like adding all this extra stuff. Like I don't like buying extra things like this. The nice thing about needle turn applique is that you don't need any special thing to do it, just needle and thread. But this is a really fun way of doing it, so I just wanted to share that with you guys tonight. I'm sure we'll be doing more needle turn applique. We'll be doing some pure needle turn applique, the super old school way, along the ways here. So don't worry if you want to have an experience with super pure applique. We will do some of that in these blocks. I can pretty much guarantee that. So we're going to do it the goofy fun way. All right, so let's just press a little bit of an area here. This is where we're going to do our circle. Okay. So here is our circle. I am going to need this to be, well, let's see. You know what? I'm going to cut right on the circle line. So here we go. Depending on what style of applique you're going to do, you may have to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance, maybe not. But I am going to just cut directly on the line here. Actually, I could have probably just traced this and skipped this step, but oh well. Actually, I might still do that. We're going to just trace. Since my fabric's so light, I'm going to just trace. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to just trace the circle through my fabric. I'm actually going to do it on the wrong side for this method. And I'm going to leave enough around the circle for a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So again, I'm going to just take, I think I'm just going to take the pencil again, and we'll just lightly draw that. You can use like a water-soluble something or something else, but sometimes a pencil just is nice. I'm trying to get this as nice as I can. I'm going to actually be sewing on this circle for this method. Okay, there we go. That's our circle. And here we go, our circle right there. And I'm going to just roughly cut that at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It really doesn't matter because I will be cutting it again later. But let's try and get a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm actually barely going to bother. Right now, for this particular style that we're doing, it doesn't need to be perfect. So again, if you're just coming in, I'm doing a really kind of weird way of the needle turn applique. This is not how you'd necessarily do all needle turn applique. But all right, now we're going to take our ultra fusible shear weight, and see, one side has these dots, and the other side is smooth. We're going to put the dot side on we're going to call that the right side. So we're going to put the dotty side towards the right side of this fabric, like this. And again, I'm going to just roughly trim that out. Okay, that's it. So now here's the fun part. I am going to sew directly on that circle all the way around like this. So I'm going to sew it so the right side's together, so the dotty side, the glue side, is in, and the right side of the fabric is also in. So here we go. We're going to sew right around that. All right, I think we'll take off that, and we'll kind of back tack it too. Ooh, it's not wanting to get in there. All right, so I am sewing directly on that line, and I'm going to have to lift up the foot and rotate it a little because this is a circle. So every couple stitches, we're going to have to move. I want this circle to be as perfectly circle as I can. Yes, the adhesive side right now is touching the right side of the fabric. So the adhesive side is currently on the inside. What is going on here? Oh, something's stuck. There we go. Why isn't this turning? Let's trim that guy off. And you'll see why in a second here. Again, this is a really super silly, goofy way to do needle turn applique, but I kind of love it. And it works especially well with circles. So little by little, I'm sewing directly on that line. And remember, I did not add, when I cut out or when I traced that circle, I was not adding a 1/4 inch to that circle. I am sewing right on the circle template size. And I just roughly cut. I roughly cut a seam allowance around it. I would definitely not call this an old school way of doing needle turn applique, but like I said, it's fun. Man, my bobbin thread is coming up really oddly. Hopefully that's not affecting things too much. What we're doing here is it's just a goofy way to be pre-turning the fabric before we needle turn it. So we're actually skipping the needle turn part of it. We're just going to stitch it down. All right, so I'm going to back tack to hold it in place, and there we are. So right now, what we have is we have the circle, and we've sewn all the way around. We have not left a hole or anything. So right now, the next part is we are going to turn it right side out, right through this sticky stuff. So what we're going to do is pull these two bits apart, and I'm going to actually cut a hole in this fusible half. All right, so we have a little hole that we're going to turn this right side out in now. But first, before we do that, we're going to trim around the edge. So one thing with circles is you want to put little notches all the way around, because that's going to reduce the bulk of the seam allowance when you turn it inside out. A really, really super easy way to do that is with a pinking shears. So we got like built-in notches. So all I'm going to do, this is why I didn't need perfect seam allowances, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to go around this edge with the pinking shears, and that's going to put a whole pile of little notches around the circle for me. And we're cutting that back fusible fabric as well. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna turn this right side out now. I was gonna try and find my pencil again. There we go. I'm gonna use my pencil to help turn me right side out. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it right side out through that little place that I cut in the fusible. We're working with teeny tiny pieces here. So if you need some help, get like a blunt, and like I'm using my pencil here, and just really push it up against the seams. You really want to pop out those seams. So just go all around the whole edge. And since we turn it right side out, now our fusible glue dots are on the outside, which is kind of magical, right? So now all we'll need to do is fuse this on and stitch it down. So there is our circle. You know, it's got a perfect edge because we've sewn it. We've sewn it and turned it inside out, right? So when we want to put it on our piece, you know, we still have to do that other circle. I'm going to actually do it in the same way. Yeah, Gretchen, I am going to do this for the large circle as well. But with the large circle, I won't have to cut a hole in, because we'll have a built-in hole, because it'll only be, you know, we'll have a hole in that circle. But yeah, so when we're done, we'll just fuse this down. We'll hit it with the iron, and then it'll be held in place long enough for us to stitch down the edge. So we'll stitch down the edge like we're normally doing needle turn applique, but it will already be folded under, and it will be folded under as a perfect circle because we've sewn it perfect already, right? By going around. So that is kind of my magic little way of, you know, a speedy needle turn applique, especially for perfect circles. And we're going to do the same thing when we put together this other little, the little kind of Dresden plate looking thing, these little doohickeys on the outside, the same thing. So if you're nervous about turning the needle turn applique by hand, this is a great way to do it. And just so you know, I want to just show you quick with needle turn applique. Oh, I don't know if I have a hand. Oh yeah, I do. So with needle turn applique, what you would be doing instead is you would have your circle and you would have to fold under a little bit like that, stitch it down, then fold over the next part and stitch it down, fold over the next part, stitch it down. That is normal needle turn applique, which we will do during the Splendid Sampler. But this, we don't have to turn it, right? Because we've pre-turned it. So we'll be stitching it down. And if there's like a little funny point or whatever, we'll be able to adjust it as we go, and we'll get to that. So I'll show you that for sure. But I wanted to make sure that I was able to go through this whole process with you guys tonight, because I'm not sure if we'll get to that tomorrow, because we are going to be doing this whole decorative Dresden plate thing. So maybe we'll get as far as getting this done and putting that fusible on. And maybe we'll even fuse it down, but I don't think we'll get to the actual stitching. But I don't know. So if you have some of this fusible, give it a try. I think you'll just really like this way of doing it. And the nice thing is it's still going to float on the top. See how it is. None of the actual fabric looks like it's glued down. Like none of it's actually fused. Only this fusible is going to be down. It's not actually attaching the back. So it's still going to look like needle turn applique, where it's floating on the top. So anyway, there we go. This was good progress for tonight. I think we got a little bit farther than I was thinking. So tomorrow we'll focus on that center area, and let's just see what it's going to look like. The center area is going to be these two colors. Give it a little arch. Aw, I think that's going to be sweet. It's going to be like a little sunshine. It's going to be like a little sunflower. Love it. All right, guys. I think that is it for tonight. Great progress. We will work on this again tomorrow. So, all right, I'm going to flip you around and we'll call it a day. All right, so I just want to show you how big these pieces are. So here's our little circle. So that was small. It might look like we did a little bit bigger circle, but it's really rather tiny. I think you'll get that sense when we work further in this Splendid Sampler too, that like, wow, that piece is a whole lot smaller than I thought. We're going to get that a lot. But love it. Look how perfect that circle is. It's going to be a perfect needle turn circle. I love it. And we're going to do that same process with that decorative Dresden plate looking thing where it's that circle with the alternating colors. It's going to be fun. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. Maybe we'll even get to the stitching point. Not sure, but I'm stoked. This is going to be a really cute block. Really kind of fancy already. I love it though. So all right, guys, I will get this up on the Penguin and Fish YouTube page. That's Penguin and Fish Movies on YouTube. And all I'm going to go through the entire process of the Splendid Sampler too. So all the blocks, I will have videos for all the blocks, the complete process there. So if you haven't started block number 1, my videos for that are up there, and this will go up there as well. And I'm going to organize them by blocks this time too. So it should be easy to find the block you want to work on. Just look for the name in the playlist. So, all right, guys, I'll be back tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Thanks so much for coming. Have a great evening.